Welcome to our POOIA Professional Organization of Iranian Americans monthly lecture series. I salute you in the name of Iran, the land of Cyrus the Great and Darius, our glory, our pride, our glamour, and our monumental civilization and our magnificent homeland. As you are already aware, we are resuming our programs after a month of postponement in solidarity with our beloved and brave people. I would like to extend my profound appreciation and gratitude to our distinguished speaker, Ms. Tara Bagheri, our young scholar, who has kindly accepted our invitation to give a presentation on the result of her study on the gender gap in college engineering for our professional organization of Iranian Americans in Atlanta, POOIA. Ladies and gentlemen, our POOIA supporters and donors and the members of the board of POOIA who are different from that of Kanoon. Before I request Ms. Dana Bagheri to introduce our speaker, I would like to talk about my dream for Kanoon. I have a dream. Ever since 2018, which I became actively involved in promoting Kanoon and POOIA, which is an affiliate of Kanoon, I have strived to encourage young people to join us, attend our lectures, cultural activities, participate in panel discussions, and give talks about their own studies to be the leaders of Kanoon in the future. I have tried immensely and will try rigorously until I reach my goal. I must thank Ms. Dana and Ms. Tara Bagheri with their participation, talks, and managing the POOIA website, and additionally having helped me to fulfill the dream that I have had for all these years, and one day soon, my dream will come true. For those who do not know, POOIA is an affiliate of Kanoon and is a non-religious, non-political, and purely an independent organization which holds monthly lectures by scholars in different sciences to give us a wide spectrum of different sciences in addition to humanities and cultural topics, glorifying our country, Iran. All the POOIA lectures are in English so that the American and international professionals and young Iranian Americans who unfortunately do not know Farsi be able to participate. In addition to this, every year POOIA has an annual gala giving awards to some brilliant Iranian students from different fields from different universities. Our next gala will be in February 2026. POOIA works tirelessly to uphold the pillars of its mission. Number one, to create a sense of synergy within population of Iranian Americans. Number two, to enhance and ensure the growth and professional success of our young people by recognizing their accomplishments. Number three, to provide other forms of advice such as internship, career counseling, financial support in a few cases, etc., to support our young professionals. Number four, to promote a positive image and counter the negative media depiction of Iran and Iranian people via our cultural lectures, which are available on pcc.com. In short, POOIA is about all of us together as a professional and diverse community with a mission to help our communities and project the right image of our proud identity, our glorious culture, and monumental achievements through our monthly lectures and annual gala with these goals and aspirations in mind. We strongly encourage all Iranian professionals from all walks of life to attend our lectures, events, and support us. Now, I will announce one of the goals of this program is designed to encourage young researchers to share their research studies with us. Now I will announce our lectures for August, all at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday, August 5, 7:30 p.m., Dr. Reza Khairandich will be talking on AI, which is the continuation of his lecture on the role of AI in education. Tuesday, August 12th, Poetry Night with Dr. Fariba Shariat, and she will be talking about Attar Neshaburi. Tuesday, August 19th, 7:30 p.m., with Dr. Mustafa Shaigan will be talking about Honar Mu'arrakh, art of inlay works. It is so interesting, his talk. On Tuesday, August 26th, Mr. Ismail Meskarpur Tusi will be talking about why the water situation of Iran is what it is now. Before introducing our speaker, on behalf of Kanoon, I express my deepest and heartfelt condolences to Mrs. Mali Sharafat, a benevolent supporter of Kanoon, and her daughter, Ariana Sharafat, and the rest of the family for the demise of their mother, grandmother, and relative, Miss Khadija Sultan Khodadoost. We share their pain with them, and we wish them solace and tranquility. May she rest in peace. She will always be remembered. Now I request that Miss Dana Bagheri, the twin sister of Miss Tara Bagheri, to introduce her. This is a night for young people. This way, a portion of my dream is fulfilled, which is the goal of Kanoon and POOIA. Now I will request that Ms. Tana Bagheri give the introduction. Thank you so much. Donna Ju, please start.
Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, she's unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Varzagar. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking my wonderful grandma, Dr. Varzagar, for putting together such an event and for giving me the opportunity to introduce my amazing sister, Tara. Firstly, I'd like to thank POOIA, Kanoon, and all the boards of the organizations for allowing young scholars to present at such a distinguished and amazing organization like POOIA, for the community, and for encouraging young Iranians to take part in POOIA and Kanoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Now I will introduce our speaker for tonight. Tara Bagheri is a rising 12th grade student at Innovation Academy. She has been in her engineering pathway for over 3 years and holds multiple leadership roles within her school. She was elected as the Engineering House Leader, where she is a founding member of her school's inaugural Houses system. Additionally, she is the Engineering Pathway Lead for Middle School Outreach, where she is the Chief Student Leader for her school's engineering-related middle school recruitment. As a part of this position, she develops interactive STEM activities for local middle schoolers and facilitates the implementation of these activities. Besides volunteering her time to encourage local youth to participate in STEM education, Tara Bagheri devotes her time to many other serviceable causes. Within her school, she was appointed as co-president of iUplifts, a club dedicated to maintaining a positive school environment. Outside of the classroom, Tara thrives in team sports, with her passion for basketball inspiring her to co-found the IA Girls Basketball Club, which was the first and only women's sports club in her school's history. Academically, Tara Bagheri has an unweighted 4.0 GPA, is a 2-time AP Scholar with Distinction, and is a 2-time Governor's Honors Program nominee, 1 for Communicative Arts and 1 for Environmental Science. Due to her commitment to both service and academics, Tara Bagheri has been inducted as a member of the National Honor Society and Beta Club. At the end of junior year, she was honored to receive a Georgia Certificate of Merit, distinguishing her as the top 10% of juniors in the state. In 2025, she was awarded the Smith's College Book Award, commemorating her academic achievement, leadership quality, and concerns for others. I hope you all enjoy her presentation as it is about to start. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Donaju. Thank you, Donaju. Thank you. Thank you so much for a very beautiful introduction. Thank you so, so much. Now, Miss Tara Bagheri, can you please start your presentation?
Yes. Thank you, Donna, for the incredible introduction. Thank you to POOIA for this incredible opportunity. I will give a more comprehensive list of all of my thank yous after this presentation, but I just want to quickly thank Dr. Varzagar, Dr. Haidari, Dr. Garmastani, Dr. Modarisi, Dr. Rabnia, and Dr. Gorgi, as well as my 3 interviewees that were a part of my research project. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start with the presentation. My screen? Perfect. Again, my name is Tara Bagheri, and my presentation today is about addressing the gender gap in college engineering. For context about the gender gap in engineering, only 16.7% of the employees of the engineering and architecture fields are women. This shows how women are a substantial minority in the engineering fields, but it's a promising sign to the slowly and gradually increasing status of women in this industry. However, one question that I often get is if men and women are equally capable of being in the engineering field, then why should it matter? Why should it matter what the percentage of each gender is? Why should it matter if men were the minority, or if the field was 50-50, since both genders are equal? Well, I agree that both genders are equally capable of success in the engineering field, but equal representation in the engineering field matters, not just because of educational abilities, but because of personal experiences that differ based on gender. One example of this is in car safety. According to Consumer Reports, any seatbelt-wearing female vehicle occupant has 73% greater odds of being seriously injured in a frontal car crash than the odds of a seatbelt-wearing male occupant being injured in the same kind and severity of crash. What this quote means is that women have a 73% greater risk of being seriously injured in a car crash compared to a man in the same kind of car crash. Why is this though? This has to do with crash test mannequins. Crash test mannequins are used in car safety tests to showcase the projected impact of the crash on humans and the effectiveness of the safety features of the vehicle. All of the safety features of the car are regulated and adjusted based on these guidelines. However, in the past, there were only male crash test mannequins, meaning all car safety features were tested and approved based on their ability to protect the male body. In the 1970s, the first female crash test mannequin was made, but it only represented the 5th percentile of women in the United States, so it was roughly the size of a 12-year-old girl, nowhere near the average female driver. Still, this mannequin was not widely used until 2003, and when it was used, it was mostly tested in the passenger seat or in the back of the vehicle, not in the driver's seat. In 2022, roughly 186 years after the invention of the car, Miss Astrid Linder, who is a female engineer, created the first representative female crash test mannequin. Again, a male engineer had the education and abilities to create a female crash test mannequin. That didn't change. But due to different life experiences and their own perception of their users, they didn't. This shows that closing the gender gap is about ensuring that the engineering field creates solutions for all members of society, not just half of it. Another example of this is in personal protective equipment. Only 17% of working women in construction report wearing personal protective equipment that was designed for them and fits them properly. Again, this is due to the male-dominated fields that created these personal protective equipments for the first time. These designs for these life-saving products are based on male bodies and characteristics. And due to the male-dominated engineering and design fields, women's bodies are often not considered or prioritized in this process. This poses a major safety risk to women who require personal protective equipment due to ill-fitting masks, improperly fitting straps, and glasses. Again, it is not that male engineers and designers purposely create products that do not cater to women. It is simply human nature to think of your own experiences when creating solutions for others. However, this natural human tendency proves why we need a more diverse engineering field and more women to represent 50% of the population that sometimes tends to go unnoticed. These findings led to my research project. My project was guided by my main research question, which was, how can the disproportionate dropout rate of women in undergraduate engineering majors in college be addressed and reduced? This question has two main parts to it. The first part is addressing this gender gap by determining the most influential cause that determines retention rates of these students. The second part is reducing this gender gap through an evaluation of potential solutions and a creation of a new one that combines the most effective approaches that were proven through our research. My problem statement is, aspiring women engineers face a variety of challenges in college due to enduring stereotypical biases that hinder their retention in engineering majors compared to their male counterparts. My research timeline had three main phases. The first phase was a literature review, in which I synthesized over 15 academic and/or first-hand sources that regarded both the proven reasons for the gender gap in college engineering and possible solutions. The second phase was my expert interviews. I conducted 3 interviews with field experts about the gender gap in college engineering. In these discussions, I learned about what they are doing to help address this problem and what can help their efforts be more successful. The final phase of this research project was a student survey. I conducted and distributed a survey to Georgia Tech engineering students regarding their personal experiences in order to gain firsthand data from these students. This table and graph shows more specifically the gender gap in engineering in college. This graph shows both the number and percentage of bachelor's degrees awarded to women in engineering programs. From 2011 to 2021, there's been a steady increase in the percentage of females receiving bachelor's degrees in engineering programs. While this is a positive trend, there's still much work to be done, as there's a clear gap between 23% of engineering bachelor's degrees awarded to women and 77% of engineering bachelor's degrees awarded to men. Closing this gap will allow more women to make it to the workforce for engineering, and it could allow more women to pursue other degrees outside of a bachelor's degree. For my research, I confirmed a variety of proven reasons for the disproportionate retention rate in college engineering majors. On the screen, I listed some of these reasons. In this presentation, I will be discussing 5 of these major reasons, including lack of belonging, which can impact students who succeed academically as well, societal views, which are ingrained in people either consciously or unconsciously, masculine culture, which is the external factor affecting the class environment, discouragement from an early age, which shapes people's unique viewpoint on the world, and the accumulation of disproportionate disadvantages, which is a unique concept that aims to explain the gender gap. For this research project, I conducted 3 expert interviews. My first expert interview was with the Associate Director of the Women in Engineering program at the Georgia Institute of Technology. In her interview, she emphasized how multifaceted this issue is, and how that there is not one clear solution that could address this problem. Secondly, I interviewed the collegiate director on the board of the National Society of Women Engineers, which is the largest organization that advocates for women in engineering. In her interview, she emphasized the importance of starting solutions as early as possible and talked about the importance of student-led clubs and organizations such as her society. Finally, I interviewed the Director of Organizational Research and Change at the National Center for Women and Information Technology. In her interview, she proposed a variety of small but impactful ways to address this gender gap and honed in specifically on ensuring an inclusive classroom environment for all. Despite all of these expert interviewees specifying on different topics and fields, all of them had the collective theme of emphasizing the importance of belonging and student retention. Whether they worked on school-led programs, student organizations, or reforming the classroom environment, all interviewees agreed about the importance of belonging and retention. The key factor that they all mentioned in one way or another was belonging. Not only did I hear a resounding sign of the importance of belonging from my interviews, all of my research pointed back to one conclusion. Belonging was the most critical factor for retention for women in engineering. Without belonging, students could feel isolated. Lack of belonging tends to impact students who are just as academically capable as other students, meaning that a sense of belonging could even overpower academic success and qualifications in a field. Again, the most influential factor in retention rates is a sense of belonging, since this directly connects to other major factors like self-efficacy, which relates to self-confidence, and emotional well-being. Female students tend to have lower self-efficacy perceptions than male students and a lower sense of belonging, leaving them to drop out at a higher rate. On the left, you can see a proposed model of associations from a research article about retention and engineering. In this model, you can see how belonging plays a major role in following fall enrollment. Not only is belonging influenced by your identity, as you can see, where it shows gender and race, but it's also influenced by other experiences in the classroom, like seeking help from others and safety to be wrong. Additionally, you can see that belonging in class is on par with GPA in determining following fall enrollment. Again, showing that students who are just as academically capable may fall victim to a lack of belonging, leading them to drop out of these majors. The second factor that I will discuss tonight is societal views. Societal views are directly influenced by historical views. Historically, the engineering field has been reserved for men. In the past, women were viewed as either physically or mentally incapable of working in engineering jobs and faced blatant discrimination even if they made it to this field. Due to World War I, women's involvement in the engineering field skyrocketed, as men were forced to leave their previous jobs to fight in the war. Thus, women played a critical role in World War I due to their engineering contributions and the way that they stepped up, proving themselves as capable to succeed in this field. After World War I, women's involvement in engineering increased, but discrimination still occurred as men fought for their pre-war status back. On the right is a photo of the first page of the first edition of The Woman Engineer, which is from the Women's Engineering Society, and was a newspaper that fought for equal opportunities and treatment for women in the engineering field. This newspaper is from December 1919. I'm going to read a quick snippet of this newspaper, as it essentially acts as a time capsule for women of the past. It says, quote, "There is no need to legislate that woman should be restricted in her choice of fields of labor. For the organic incapacity of the individual, if it exists, will legislate far more powerfully than any artificial, legal, or social obstruction can do. And it may be that the one individual in 10,000 who selects a field not generally sought by his fellows will enrich humanity by the result of an especial genius. Allowing all to start from one point in the world of intellectual culture and labor, with our ancient Mother Nature sitting as umpire, distributing the prizes and scratching from the lists the incompetent, is all we demand, but we demand it determinately. This excerpt represents how women just urged for an opportunity. The author argues that women should not be legislated and restricted from engineering jobs. She says that if women are as incapable as men claim they are, if they are as incompetent, as physically and mentally incapable as they say, then there is no need for these artificial restrictions. Instead, she argues that Mother Nature will weed women out if they cannot contribute to engineering, and naturally they will leave the field. While societal views have made significant improvement today, with the majority of society supporting an inclusive engineering field, historical views still perpetuate into current views. Our societal views can be split up into two cohorts, one being conscious bias and the other being unconscious bias. Conscious bias is intentional bias that some people display and is viewed as more of a choice. They are deliberate actions taken to favor certain groups and are typically clear representations of discrimination. Most people do not have conscious bias. In fact, the majority of men do not display conscious bias. However, it is still extremely harmful against women, since it perpetuates stereotypes and discrimination. However, everybody, both male and female, has an unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is essentially a mindset, making it much harder to target than conscious bias. It can be shown using the implicit association test, which was a test developed by Harvard researchers. Every person makes hundreds of associations every single day. Whether it's names or sounds or smells or actions that invoke certain thoughts or emotions, every person makes associations every single day. This test examines the associations humans make between gender and science. A crowd of people, both men and women, were told to categorize a set of words based on male or female, with half of the words being science-related terms and the other half being related to the home, such as children or cooking. For this first round, the crowd was told to say male when they saw the science words, and then say female when they saw the words that were related to the home. This association was made, on average, in 631 milliseconds per word, with minimal errors. Next, they switched, with the crowd having to categorize science as the female field. This association was made, on average, in 1,037 milliseconds per word, with an abundance of errors. This stark difference in association represents how subconsciously society views engineering as a male field and makes that connection much quicker. And again, this is not done on purpose and has no ill intentions. It is simply a subconscious mindset that we must work together as a society to change. The third factor is masculine culture. Male-dominated environments tend to alienate and exclude women. Female students may feel out of place and unfit to meet the social norms surrounding their major. In many cases, male-dominated environments breed harassment, disrespect, and inequity. Again, it is not that all men are the problem. In fact, it is nothing close to that. However, it has been proven that male-dominated environments are correlated to higher rates of harassment. According to a 2017 study by the Pew Research Center, women in workplaces with majority men have experienced 8% more harassment than women in workplaces where women are the majority. Additionally, 62% of these women in male-dominated workplaces say that harassment is a problem in their industry, compared to just 46% of these women in workplaces where women are the majority. One female engineering student shared her experience in the classroom saying, quote, "Our professor wanted to get a picture of our prototype and us. We picked up our prototype and were all smiling and looking all professional. Then he said, "You guys look like professional catalog models. This picture could go in a catalog, and you could sell big time." This shows that professors can also impact students. Instead of praising her project, the student's professor commented on her looks and compared her to a model. While this could be seen as a compliment, it shows how a lot of women are discredited in their engineering work and instead are focused on for their looks rather than their merit. A retired female engineer said, quote, "Some male colleagues did not/do not respect the opinion or work of a female engineer, regardless of her experience or education. Until they experience the female engineer being competent and respected by others in the organization, they are disrespectful and do not listen or respond appropriately." Again, not all women engineers experience this disrespect, but it does show how the workforce can be an uninviting place for women. The fourth factor that influences retention rates of female engineering students is early experiences. A graduate of a mechatronics engineering program recalls that from an early age she was discouraged by her elementary school to pursue engineering, while the boys in her grade were encouraged to have interest in this field. The girls and boys were split, and while the girls were given a lecture, the boys participated in a car building activity. Her and her fellow female classmates petitioned the school to change this program, but her school did not. Her father, an engineer, was critical to keeping her dreams alive because he did these activities that she was not allowed to do at school at home. With the support of her parents, she eventually pursued a future in engineering. All levels of education should support more young girls to do the same. Especially at an early age, young children are experiencing everything for the first time. Everything that they are told, everything that they are seeing for the first time, shapes their evolving viewpoint about the world. That is why it is so important to encourage young girls and show them that engineering is a field that they can thrive in and a field that they belong in. The final factor is the concept of the accumulation of disproportionate disadvantages. In this publication from the Journal of Engineering Education, researchers explored the hypothesis that men in engineering accumulate small advantages over time, while women accumulate small disadvantages over time, gradually leading to the gender gap in this field. They analyzed and sorted data from an anonymous questionnaire given to over 1,000 students to conclude that while both men and women accumulate different advantages and disadvantages throughout their engineering studies, women have a disadvantage in physics that begins from the start of college and endures throughout. So, while on the surface it may seem like one disadvantage to one disadvantage, making it equal in number, the disadvantages that women tend to acquire are more important to the engineering field. Thus, these disproportionately significant disadvantages gradually accumulate, forming a gender gap in this field. Women also acquire a new disadvantage of having low self-efficacy in engineering, which is a major determinant of retention. The study showed that while both genders face their own unique disadvantages that could hinder their persistence in the engineering field, females face more significant disadvantages that could reduce their retention more. After pinpointing belonging as the most influential factor for retention rates, as well as analyzing other causes for this gender gap, I evaluated a variety of possible solutions, such as the ones seen on the screen. The three solutions that are the most useful are peer mentorship programs, which provide one-on-one educational support for students, high school outreach programs, which mostly function as informative and target an earlier age group, and women-based organizations and clubs, which are overwhelmingly positive but have less individual emphasis. Firstly, I evaluated each of these potential solutions to determine their shortfalls. Peer mentorship programs are not always accessible to students. Specifically, students who are not in college may not have access to these programs. Additionally, these programs require long periods of time to create a social connection that could actually foster a sense of belonging. Same-gender mentorship has been proven to be significantly more effective, meaning that it is harder to find mentors for these programs. High school outreach programs do not directly impact college students, since they are catered to high school kids. However, these high school outreach programs still ultimately improve retention outcomes when these students make it to college. That is why it is still important to participate in these programs. It's important to also change them to make sure that they are not too late for early development, since early development occurs at a younger age. At the same time, some of these programs are not implemented in college. These programs may falter due to a disconnect between college and high school students, and since social connections are key to addressing a lack of belonging, this must also be addressed. Finally, student-based organizations are extremely beneficial. However, they can vary by school and tend to focus on groups instead of individual needs. Overall, these organizations play a major role for students. Peer mentorship. Researchers from the University of Massachusetts Amherst conducted a longitudinal field experiment for several years on 150 women to determine the impact that female mentors have on female engineering students. They concluded that same-gender peer mentoring during the transition to college appeared to be an effective intervention to increase belonging, confidence, motivation, and ultimately retention of women in engineering. However, these positive results were only found with same-gender mentors, and the results of a male mentor did not deviate positively from the control group. The researchers also concluded that the most critical phase to implement these same-gender mentors is in the early period of college, where students make the transition from high school to their universities. As you can see on the graph to the left, having a male mentor has minimal effect on change in belonging compared to the control group. Without a female mentor, women engineering students tend to decrease their sense of belonging over time, as can be seen on the graph that's between the middle of the year and the end of the year. With a female mentor, however, women engineering students experience a positive trend in belonging over time, proving that female mentors improve the belonging and thus the retention of female engineering students. The graph on the right shows that having a male mentor decreases the retention rate for female students beyond the control group, while having a female mentor increases the retention rate significantly. This data proves that peer mentorship improves retention outcomes and directly promotes belonging, proving it to be a viable solution. High school outreach programs. High school outreach programs can come in a variety of forms and mostly serve as informational programs for high school kids. Some examples include presentations from college representatives, student conferences where students go to the college, and interactive programs. The main positive of high school outreach programs is that they target students from an earlier age. Additionally, these programs educate students on the engineering field. These programs ultimately help students during the transition from high school to college, which is the most critical period for retention outcomes. Finally, student-led clubs and organizations. Student-led clubs help create a sense of community while forming a network of support for new students. These organizations are overwhelmingly positive for students. They're critical for belonging to students, but can be too large to meet the individual needs of each person. One prominent example is the Society of Women Engineers. SWE is the abbreviation for it, and it's the largest advocate for women in engineering. To culminate all of my research, I created a solution proposal that can be seen on the right. This program would combine peer mentorship, student-led clubs, and high school outreach programs to create one unified program that addresses the needs of female engineering students, specifically by promoting more belonging. The goal of the program is to create a sense of community for women in engineering, while also providing experienced support to students in the transition period between high school and college. While this program is currently a concept in progress, I have transitioned from research to advocacy and awareness of this issue. At the end of this school year, I presented my research findings to fellow students, teachers, and business partners at my school's annual project showcase. On the screen is the poster I presented at this showcase. My current focus is on continuing raising awareness for this topic. As you can see on my poster, I went over a lot of the aspects that I talked about during this presentation. I talked about the background for this problem. I went more in depth on my methodology, which was a convergent mixed methods design, in which I collected qualitative and quantitative research simultaneously. I looked at some of my data tables, and I also talked about my conclusions for this project and into my next steps, which is to continue to develop the programs in my solution proposal and to continue raising awareness for this issue. Throughout my research journey, I documented the process in a digital portfolio. If anyone is interested in reading more into my research project or looking at all of the documents that I referenced in this presentation, I will put the link below after this presentation. I will put it in the chat. Here's a little bit about how the website looks. Perfect. This is how it would look, and I will drop the link for this after my presentation and after I answer questions. But this website goes more in depth about all of my research process. It includes all of the paperwork that I have from my school's research committee to approve all of the data that I collected. It goes in depth about the 3 steps of my research project, which was my literature review, my expert interviews, and my student survey. Specifically on the page with the literature review, it goes over the chart that I referenced today. It has all of the sources that I referenced, as well as a more in-depth look at everything that I talked about today. If anyone has any more questions or wants a little bit more of an in-depth look. It also has 2 annotated bibliographies, one that goes more in depth on some of the studies that I talked about, one of them being the disproportionate disadvantages one that I talked about, and the other talking about the reasons that I chose my research method, which was a mixed methods design. I also documented all of the interviews that I conducted and the interview process, and I talk about some of the takeaways that I mentioned in this presentation, specifically how important belonging is to retention, how the organizations like the Society of Women in Engineering help alleviate this problem, how this problem is extremely multifaceted, and that solutions must start from an early age to make the most impact. I also have some information about the student survey I did. I didn't go much into it for this presentation since I used a small sample size, but it does have some of the data tables that I created with my research. I also go into my conclusions. Again, to reiterate, women drop out of undergraduate engineering majors at a higher rate than men, mostly due to a lack of belonging in a field that can alienate female students. I talked about the 3 main solutions I found, which were organizations and clubs peer mentorship programs, and high school outreach programs. Additionally, I have my solution proposal linked here if anybody wants to look more in depth at that. And I talk about the impact I hope to have on both my research field, society, and the user, which is women in engineering. I also have a reflection. I talk about my next steps, and I look at how I can iterate this project. I'm going to share my screen back to the working on. It's called Her Mind. And it's a website that I'm creating that provides free mentorship videos from engineering professionals for aspiring women engineers. I'm currently in the process of making the website and hope it can expand the benefits of peer mentorship to all. I just want to end on one final note. While researching these problems can be disheartening, there's so much to be hopeful about in the engineering field. Women's involvement in engineering has been gradually increasing, and inclusivity is at an all-time high. The future for engineering is looking bright, but it is important to remember that advocacy is what brought us here. That is why it is so important to keep spreading awareness about this gender gap. And again, I want to reiterate that this is not a male versus female problem. It's simply not. This is a systemic problem that we can work together to solve. Thank you to everyone for coming to this presentation. I greatly appreciate your interest in my research. Thank you again to POOIA for showing that high schoolers just like me can contribute to professional societies. Thank you, Dr. Varsagar, for your leadership in POOIA and continued advocacy for Persian youth participation in POOIA. Thank you to Dr. Haidari for making the beautiful presentation flyer, and Dr. Garmestani for running this Zoom meeting and helping me distribute my survey. Thank you to Dr. Modarisi for involving me in POOIA at an early age, and Dr. Gorgi and Dr. Arabnia for their continued support. Special thanks to my 3 interviewees and my research teacher, Dr. Gingrich, who guided me through this process. I hope that everyone here tonight could see a piece of someone familiar to them in this presentation. Whether it is yourself, your child, or your grandchild, I encourage more Persian and non-Persian youth to participate in POOIA. While it may seem daunting to present to such a large group of professionals, POOIA is truly the most supportive organization, and I hope my presence tonight can inspire more students to participate in these programs. Thank you, everybody, and I will answer all of your questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara John. It didn't seem that a 17-year-old high school student is presenting. I thought a professor in the field was actually presenting. Thank you so much. I am proud of you. And, my literature is actually not good enough to say how good you are and how brilliantly you presented, this topic and this research that you have done. I'm proud of you, and there are many good comments here. I will read the comments later, but first let's go to the questions, and then later I will read the comments as well, because there are lots of nice comments there. Thank you, Tara John. Thank you. It was really a scholarly presentation. A lot of people might think that only